Good morning. I'm Rosemary DiTrolio, and you're listening to The Lightwalker's Path. It's a place to develop new insights, find your soul's purpose, hear enlightening conversation, and be inspired. Good morning. I'm Rosemary DiTrolio, and this is The Lightwalker's Path, streaming live on multiple streaming platforms. So join me every Tuesday to develop new insights, find your soul's purpose, hear enlightening conversation, and be inspired. We can find YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many other places where you could find the replay, as well as my own website, rosemaryd.com. I teach people how to safely connect with the divine. I guide them through workshops, readings, and self-study. And my joy also is to highlight and work with wonderful individuals that I've met along the way. And I'd like to introduce David Newkirk, a lifelong healing facilitator. He works with energy. He's a spiritual advisor. He helps people with awakening and opening up to their gifts. And I have personally used him a few times to guide me business wise. And I consider him like a spiritual mentor guide for business owners, which is why I connected with him. I recently found out that he is also a Reiki master, a medium, a medical intuitive. He can work with the animal realm, and he also works with clearing dark energy from spaces. And that's something I recently learned about David. So I want to welcome David. I think his business is called Ethos. I'll have him explain. David, welcome.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Rosemary. Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too. So you're the business name, so I have it correct. It's Ethos
Mhm.
Consulting, is that correct?
Yeah, it is. The official name is Ethos Consulting LLC, and then the website is just dedicated with the name Ethos to make it easier in terms of how
Beautiful.
people can find it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm so excited to be able to speak with you again because you've always given me such wise advice. And I tell people it's not just like marketing advice, it's like you get to the core of what a person's block is and help them navigate through. And you've helped me countless times with your advice to my own business, and I really appreciated what you do. So I want you to tell me a little bit about what you find your main focus to be when you work with a client, like let's say in the business realm, or
Sure.
like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. It's really interesting. It already comes in a setup where people have couple of challenges, right? And we know that ahead of time, and we sort of are setting the table for having a discussion. But I usually approach it where I find out what's top of mind for them, what's occupying their mind in the moment when we're getting together. What's
Yeah.
pressing, and then, but what we realize is that business is not just business. It's not blocking and tackling. It's not just tasks. It's not just taking actions.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs are a huge piece of the ingredient in how they are within themselves that has a huge dynamic effect on the business success as well as the challenges. And
Mm-hmm.
so the focus tends to be understanding how the entrepreneur is also behaving and thinking and being
I
that
love that.
affects the decision making process or creates fears or creates a certain perspective, and we just sort of put it all out there, and we very concisely understand what we want to tackle as ingredients, in priority.
I love that. I know that intention is so great. Like I've met people that I've helped through their journey, and a lot of times they'll say, "I'm not good enough. I don't know this. I don't know that," and that's a huge block right there. Because
Yeah.
even if you don't know something, you could find people that can help you. And that's what I always say. It's like, certain things, we don't know everything. So you get stuck on that sticking point. You see someone who knows how to navigate what you don't know how to navigate.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I perked up because when you just started explaining that, I couldn't agree more with you with how you do it with your clients too. The
Hmm.
thing that really surfaces in what you said for me and shows all the time is there's a lot of self-judgment.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
so one of the things, and it doesn't always happen with every client or in conversation, but one of the things that I always have just out there where sometimes apply it, which is asking the client to consider removing from their language any
Mm,
words that are labels or represent a form of judgment, and how would they explain,
right.
articulate, and be in their business without words of judgment of themselves or anything
Oh,
else.
that's awesome. That's great. I find too, like a lot of people have this imposter syndrome when they're
Mhm,
really new at using their gifts. And
mhm.
it'll be like, well, I don't know if this is real. I don't know this. I don't know that. And I know years ago I started learning Reiki in 1996. So I've been using it since then. And one of the things that you do is like you're questioning yourself, like, is this working? Is this true? Is it, can the person feel it? And I
Mhm.
found that a lot of clients that I've worked with have this imposter syndrome, especially when they're new at opening up to their gifts and
Yeah.
developing themselves. Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
find that as
it
well?
yeah, I do, but it's really interesting. So thanks for bringing that up because, when I mentor, people in the alternative health and wellness space,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's their spirituality or just how to be better practitioners, even though they're good practitioners, but how to be better and
Mm-hmm.
working on their business. One of the things that comes up is I always tell them being a practitioner in alternative health and wellness is a game of confidence.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah.
And without confidence, what you have is doubt. Did they have a good session from my healing practice or my
Yeah.
acupuncture or my Reiki or, sound
Yes.
healing or, healing touch? And I always tell them that they're getting in the way themselves, which is why do you
Yeah.
need validation? If you've been
Yes.
trained and if you are certified and you have proven that what you have delivers, why do you have to have validation coming back?
Absolutely. It's funny. It brings back years ago, my very first angel communication class I did in, I think, 1995 or 96. And one of the things I struggle with too is when I do a reading for someone, and this happened early on, I would like batten down just because I'm writing stuff. I don't know, it was just channeled to me and I'm writing it down and I'm sharing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to tell the person this. And one thing that sticks out is one of my early clients had committed suicide, and I didn't know this. And I did the reading, and what came through was her angel, and the angel's like, it's not your time. You have a mission on earth. You are not supposed to leave. And it was very like, strong, and I had to
Mhm.
share it with someone I didn't even know. So she came to me and I'm telling her this. Her jaw drops. She says, no one knows I tried to commit suicide. No one knows what my angel told me when I passed over. You have written exactly what my angel told me. And I'm like, oh my God, it just floored me. But that's happened
Mhm.
countless times. So cool. So I've kind of learned to trust it, but it took some courage to do.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, I was on the same journey too, a long time ago because for me, everything just comes to me
Mhm.
instantaneously, so
Clairsentient.
and I always have this challenge, and this challenge is that I always have to hold more than I can share. So
Yes. Agree.
let's say, for an example, someone, in the past, over the past couple of years tried to commit suicide. I would
Mhm.
automatically know that, but I wouldn't
Yes,
raise the question and ask the question, but I would
that's
know it,
right.
right?
Yes.
And maybe organically through other avenues of conversation, it would come out.
Yeah.
But, my challenge has always been I always know more than I can share because I always am a philosophy of, it's a permission-based way of
Ab
being,
oh,
and
yes.
it has to be a safe place for people too, right?
Yes, and that's true, like, even when I'm working with a client or doing a reading, it's always
Mm,
free will, and you
yes.
never wanna overstep that boundary without understanding. So sometimes when I'm ready to share, like, the angels have sometimes put like a thing over my mouth saying, "Hold back," or they'll
Mhm.
say, "Right now, share it," and I get, like, a quickening, so I know when it's appropriate to do and when it's not, and that saved me many times, just trusting that kinda gut instinct that we have. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
clairsentient as well, so I get it.
yeah, it's really interesting because, one of the I think one of the skills that I have that really works well for me is that I have the ability to ask questions in a certain soft way that tends
Mhm.
to be able to flesh things out. So I can say, for example, let's use that suicide as an example. I could
Yeah.
say, "Did you ever have a moment in time where you were really deeply questioning everything, even
Mhm.
wondering what things are about with being here?" And I could say
Mhm.
something in that type of format, and they'll be like, "Oh, yes, actually," and then it
Mhm.
comes through.
Yes.
So that's where the knowledge helps me
Mm.
guide me to questions like that, which aren't so affronting or so
Yes,
direct or so
yes,
unsafe, but we
yeah.
sometimes we can get to those places.
I love that. Yeah, it's a dance, right? You have to kind of feel out how someone is perceiving it. And I think, I'm an intuit by nature, and I know you are as well. But sometimes when you deal with people that are sensors, they're more like here now, what I see at this moment is my truth. And there's a little bit different way working with those kind of people. And I found, there's kind of like that dance between giving and listening and sharing.
Yeah, I actually
Yes.
qualify my clients because if I'm introduced to people who are dabbling, but
Yes.
they're not truly open, and I'll know if they're
Yeah.
open to the experience with me.
Yes.
I'll redirect them because it doesn't make them happy to have an experience that's not working for them if
Mhm.
it
That was
if they're
so
saying they're
powerful
open
when
and
you
not. Go
that was
ahead.
so powerful. When you shared that little triangle with me and my business, like the light bulb went on in my head. I'm like, "You know what? That's exactly right." And I had 2 clients, recently that were dabblers. And I
Mhm.
know that, I did what I did, but I wasn't gonna hear from them for a while because they were just, like, poking with this person and this reader and that reader, and they weren't quite ready yet. And that really is like struck a chord with me. I'm like, "That's amazing. Why didn't I figure that out?" So that was really good advice, David. Yes. Okay. So I was curious because you had mentioned that you work with how energies or dark
Mhm.
energies sometimes affect people. And I've seen this as well with people that, well, especially with people that have been through addictions and that. They kind of are like Swiss cheese in their energy field. So there's dark energies, and sometimes they're in homes. So I would like you to speak on that if you still do that kind of work and what you have discovered from it.
Sure, thanks for asking. So I do that work first and foremost only by referral. I'm very careful about it because
Mhm.
it can invite very different kinds of people that are in different places, right? And so I try to curate, that through just referral to make sure that it's the
Mhm.
right type of person that's coming seeking support and help. But I'll give you can I give you an example just to give you the best example
Absolutely.
of recent one?
Yes.
So I traveled to a client, their house in a couple hours. I drove, and they had talked about they had a shaman had been at the house. They had some other people who were certified people, and they could not remove the beings that were in the house. It just was always the same. And one time the son's bed was going up and down. They were disruptive just in the house, and one was causing some physical harm to one of the family members.
Mhm.
So, I went there, agreed to come, of course, and they were actually a friend, believe it or not, but I'd never been there. And long story short, there were 4 different entity beings there. The
Mhm.
first one right away, is one that had committed suicide several years prior and was there.
Mhm.
I was able to move them into the light
Mhm.
so that they moved from being in the in between where they were and in the
Right.
house.
Yeah.
The one being that was, an entity, I found that he had, in the early 1900s, he had actually died at an event, a family gathering there. He was knocked down and died, visiting, and they buried him in the basement, and they showed in the
Oh,
basement where he was, because it was a
oh,
dirt
good.
basement, one of those old houses,
Yes, yes, yes.
connected with him. He was the one moving the bed. He did not know that he had passed. I had asked him if he wanted to go into the light or wanted to stay. He said he wasn't ready, and we respected that, but
Uh-huh.
we had a conversation. And in that
Okay.
long conversation, the feedback I was given afterwards is that he was very friendly. Nothing happened anymore, and he actually
Mhm.
was spending time with the family in a good way.
Okay.
In his
In-
presence, he was no longer disruptive.
Interesting. So, okay. So
And
my
then the
question
third
about
one was a
that.
dark. I'm sorry, the third one was a
Sorry,
dark energy that I had to remove. Sorry.
okay, no, you just brought up a question that I had. So, when a person's ready to move on, they
Mm.
will. Okay. Do you work, can you do you have to be in that physical presence when you're working in the house, or do you do this virtually as well? And then we'll go
Oh,
back to the third one. I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. So the answer to the question is I have to be there physically to connect with them. I mean,
Okay.
yes. So, but for example, when I was going to a house, probably 2 months ago, I was feeling the energy of that
Hmm.
person who had passed that being while I was driving there, 15 miles away.
Okay. Yes.
So I was already getting ready. So I will actually know what they're like, the nature of their energy, what it's like. I'll already know what their issues are as an energy being before I get there.
Okay. Now, the third one you said was the dark one, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So, did that one stay, or were you able to transform
Mhm.
or move the energy of that? And I want you to come, we're going to come back to that after the break because we're coming up on a sponsor break. So, remind me, we come back. I want to ask you about that third person. So, this is the Lightwalker's Path. We'll be right back after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Lightwalker's Path, Grow Your Spirit with Rosemary, and my guest, David Newkirk. And before the break, we were talking about how David clears out energies from homes that are negative. And one of the ones that he was mentioning before break was a dark entity. And my question to you is, did it stay? Did it go? Did you transform the energy? What happened?
Thank you. So this one in particular was when I went upstairs into the end of the room, the bedroom where one of the family members stayed. That family member actually was had physical impact from being in that room with that entity because it was their bedroom.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and that and no matter who they had seeked help with mediums and with shamans and other practitioners, nothing would change. But when I went into that room, I very distinctly saw them. I could see them. I saw them. I'm very visual. And what I do is I connect with them immediately and I give them a choice.
Okay.
I ask them to leave. I let them know that they're no longer wanted here. I'm going to give them a choice because it's all permission based. Um, the way it works for me is that these particular entities typically are more feral in nature. Think of it like a wolf. A wolf is not a bad animal, but it's feral in its nature. That's just the way it
But it's
is.
there.
So
Yeah.
so when I think of energies, energies represent different levels of consciousness and levels of being, and some can be just more feral. They want what they want. They know what they want. They don't have the ability to think and be, loving
Hmm.
in a different way. They're not evolved that way. So the best way I can describe it, and I don't want to be dramatic, that's why I only do this by referral, is that there's a winner and a loser because it is a battle,
Okay.
and the outcome is one survives and one dies if they
Okay.
don't choose the choice to leave. And so that particular battle it lasted 20-25 minutes. Um, People down the hallway could experience through sound and through everything what was going on. And that entity is gone. I'm here. That entity is gone, and that person is completely, fully healed physically and emotionally now.
Okay, so that brings up something that I recently found out. One of my clients told me, she shared this with me. I didn't know this when I first met her. She said before I attuned her to Reiki, she was waking up with scratches on her back and dark energy and all this terrible stuff. And when she met me, one of the things I did after I attuned her is I told her that light is always stronger than darkness, and that if you are really aware of your own light and you work to clear yourself, you're very boring to anything dark because they don't want to attach to you. They want to find someone else that's Swiss cheese, that's easier target. So after I attuned her, she recently learned another level with me. She said it completely went after I tuned her the first time. All her bad dreams were gone. She went on a healing quest. So she did a lot of self-care after that, and she just realigned herself, and she hasn't been bothered since. So I thought that was an interesting thing, that we are boring to those dark things if we have a lot of light in us. Do you find that that's true for you? Do you?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Absolutely. I'm with you in all of that. The way that I tend to approach it is um, because I do spiritual mentoring too, and also and
Yep.
advising and all those things, is the place where I am and where I come from. there's no such thing as protection. You know, you
Right.
can't burn sage in a house, and it works for a day or two, and everything's the same. And to me, protection is a psychological form of taking action for coping, but it never removes the root cause of the issue. And
Okay.
the root cause of the issue is, to your point, is it's the individual. Energies can only enter that are unpleasant if they are given permission.
I
It's
agree with that
permission
completely.
based.
Yes,
The,
yes.
the form of protection that we create is how strong we are, and not holding fear, which creates those Swiss cheese holes, which gives them a
Yeah,
form of permission. Because by
absolutely.
holding fear, we're actually saying, yes, it is real. Yes, it's here. Yes, it can get to me. And in its
Power over.
own unique way, it's permission.
Yeah. It's funny. Back in, I guess, I don't know how many years ago it was, probably 1992. I was starting to channel the angel realm, and one of the things, I was also going through a health issue at the time. So one night, I have this sleep where I can see visions, right? I had this specter come into the room with the hood and the nails and the red eyes, and it put its hand on my head and it said, "You're going to die." And it took me like a day and a half to get myself together and say, you know what? This stupid thing has no power over me. So the
Mhm.
next time it showed up, I yelled at it and it shrunk. And then it was by my husband. It says, if I can't have you, I'm going to go to him. And he woke up with a terrible dream the next day. So I prayed in the room. I told him to pray, and I kind of said, you know what, if you have this fear, it makes it bigger. It never showed up since, and I believe it could have been a gatekeeper because at the time I was just starting to work with what I'm doing now with channeling, and I believe sometimes we get scared off our path because they know our power is too strong and we're going to affect change. So I don't know, but I didn't let it scare me. It took 2 days though. I was terrified for a day and a half. Yeah. Oh goodness. Yeah. And the other thing is when I moved in my house, there was an imprint in my bedroom of a man holding a gun to a woman's head. And what I
Mhm.
found out a month later, after I did sage my room, I prayed in there. I found out later that the lady that lived there with her ex-husband, he actually held a gun to her head in the bedroom, and it made an imprint in my room. So it wasn't a ghost, but it was a very highly charged negative imprint. So, I got that right from the girl that it happened to. And she told me where it happened and when. So,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
yeah,
So I'll give you one, if I can share one more example. So
absolutely.
I
Please
was,
do.
is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, of course.
So this was just energy. I just call energies energies. Like dark energy to me is a form of judgment. To me, energies are just energies, and they're of all different types. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't equate them as either dark or good or bad or anything like that. Energies are energies of different types. But I was at visiting a friend's house, and I noticed a being that was in the house on the stairwell. It was a split level house. I noticed him on the hallway, and I learned that that being had been there since they moved in the house 40 years ago, and
Oh,
they had always been and the person has never slept well in their bedroom for 40 years.
my goodness.
And so I just thought, and that person, this being, limited themselves as to where they would go in the house. They tend to stay up in the bedroom, the three bedrooms on the split level of the house. And I went into the master bedroom, and I know it's the same master bedroom anymore, into the
Yeah.
larger bedroom, and
Yes.
sat down in the bed, and I just connected and had a conversation. I learned his name,
Okay.
identified the date that he died,
Oh, wow.
and I talked to him, and I asked him why he was so frustrated, what was going on. We learned what was going on, and he didn't want to be there. He wasn't with family, he wasn't with loved ones, and he was frustrated because he was there, and he would have
Couldn't.
bouts of being okay, then bouts of anger, and it would show
Oh,
because he just was there, and they have no concept of time, but they're there.
right.
So
Right.
we ended up walking him. I walked him into the light. He left. The house has not been disruptive ever again since then. But then the homeowner did some research through the town library where they do all the history, and
Mm-hmm.
his name was accurate. The day he died
Oh,
was
well.
accurate. Everything was just spot on. So it was nice to know, though, that it wasn't about just helping the person with the house, but we helped a being who didn't want to be there and wanted to be someplace else, and they got there. And that's just, to me, that's just a wonderful grounded feeling.
Yeah. I had a couple things too when I moved in my home. I learned to kind of seal my bedroom, but I had like
Mhm.
an opening in my bedroom, and I would have like people come through, and they would go, "Are you the light? Are you the light?" I'm like, "No, I'm not the light." And I would, call Archangel
Mm.
Michael in or one of the angels to cross them. But one of them was a little boy, and he was looking for his parents. And I found out the next day that there was an accident on Route 80, which is close to my house, and the two parents had died, and the kid survived. And it just like it, oh my God, it was so emotional. And I said, no, I said, your mommy and daddy, they're okay with the angels, follow the angel, you know. And then I just had to like seal my room and say prayers in there and close it up and say, if anyone's soul is lost, I don't want to be bothered at nighttime. It's not helpful to me. And but it's like it's not anything I wanted to do. It
Mhm.
just sometimes happens when it's supposed to for me because I'm open to it. But it's not, that isn't my mission or my desire, but it does happen.
Well, it's wonderful because it doesn't take a lot of time to do it, right?
Right.
And when it does, it has such a positive, loving impact, and I think that's the key, right? You're giving a positive,
Yeah.
loving impact.
There you go. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. Okay. So, um, all right. What do you do to keep yourself grounded and centered? What's some of your self-care things that you do for yourself?
So, interesting question. So, the place where I am right now is I'm just grounded. I don't have to be grounded. I don't have to work
Mm-hmm.
on that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in a different place. I know I mentioned to you in the past, my life is, for lack of a better description, I'm in the energy, consciously aware of being in the energy of everything all day. So I'm aware of everything that goes on at all times, with everything here, not here, all of that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just at a place now, through my personal growth, I'm just grounded all the time. And um, I don't say that lightly. I understand when I'm saying that, people are like, how can you be grounded all the time? But I just am.
You're very mindful of those shifts in yourself too, right?
But
So,
yes, but I'm not holding things that would
okay,
cause me to be on an emotional roller coaster, cause me to be unglued, things of that
right,
nature,
right. So that's
right?
good. That's
All that has been cleared, all that's gone.
Yeah. A lot of it is too like letting go of like those hurts, taking things personally, resentments,
Mhm.
all that stuff that holds us back in life. So
Yes.
when did you first start connecting with spirit and know that this was your path? Because I know that you came out of the corporate world. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah, I did. So it's been, it's been an interesting life.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like this my entire life, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it's not a life where you can be a kid and this can be something that people, oh yeah, okay, sure, that's fine.
Yes, yes.
Um, I think where it first started, when I was trying to go a little public with it, was when I was younger, and we'd be watching a football game, a family get together, and I'd be like, "There's gonna be a 20-yard pass down the left sideline, and it's gonna end up being a touchdown."
Okay.
20-yard pass, they'd hike the ball down.
Uh,
I'd be like, "That field goal is gonna go wide right. It's gonna just skim the outside of the right post, and it's gonna miss." Kick
uh-huh.
would be up, hit skim the right side. I would try to let people know what I was starting about, and they were oblivious to it. They weren't acknowledged these
Uh,
things that I was sharing.
that's fun.
So I've always been this way, but in 2018, I just decided that since I've been doing this, I've been helping people informally in the business place as peers, or and elsewhere, and outside of that in personal life. I'm sick of the ego world and the business world, and I decided to leave. I had enough, and I just wanted to just be who I am all the time and be present for that.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of indications that the timing would work for that. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
stepped out of all of that, gladly left it behind, because when I left, it's hard to be able to know what is in the mind of your manager, and they're
Yeah.
speaking to you, and it's the opposite of what's in their head.
Oh boy. Yes, I get it. I get it. Yeah. I was a very intuitive kid and I always knew things and people would sit down and tell me their life story even really young. I would always be in the position where they'd ask my advice. And I also knew stuff, like I knew stuff about people I didn't know. And also, when I'm watching TV, I can tell you the next line of conversation they're going to come out with. And
Mhm.
I've done this all the time. It's funny. My husband will look at me like, "How'd you know that?" But it's like I know it. It's in my brain and it popped in. So that's always been for me as well. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I think we're going to come up on another sponsor break, like right now. So we'll be right back. Please stay with us on the Lightwalker's Path, Grow Your Spirit with Rosemary, and my guest, David Newkirk. Hold on, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Rosemary. This is the Lightwalker's Path, and my guest is David Newkirk. And before break, we were speaking about different kinds of energies and what we do with them. And I wanted to ask you, David, when you work with sensitives and empaths, what are some of the highlights or the things that you provide that we often need when you're an empath or a sensitive?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. What's really interesting is when it comes to empaths, people will commonly say, "I feel the energy of others." I can feel that, and they get one of the challenges is getting dysregulated, becoming
Hmm.
dysregulated by being so open that you feel all
Oh,
these things.
yeah.
But one of the things that comes forward, believe it or not, fairly consistency, because I've been working with empaths and sensitive since 2018. So I actually did a study with my wife on everyone that we have worked with over the past 7 years. And what did we
Mm,
find? And we ended up finding 14 common traits and challenges that they all share.
that's cool. Okay.
And
Okay.
so we have a program called HSP Conversations, which focuses strictly on people who are empaths and sensitives and trying to work through that aspect. But one thing is, it's always being a giver, having a
Hmm.
hard time receiving,
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I concur.
having no boundaries, having low
Hmm.
boundaries, not feeling comfortable enforcing boundaries,
Hmm.
desiring connection to others,
Yes.
but
Yes.
always having challenges with the other person not being a good behavioral connection in terms of what they
Yes.
receive. So we work
Yes.
through a lot of these things. And one of the things that consistently comes back to us, though, is a lot of experiences in our childhood as a sensitive
Hmm.
really are triggers to what happens in our life when we're an adult. And we have
Hmm.
to go back to go forward.
Yes, yes. You know, it's funny because I've been a lifelong empath and sensitive, and how it manifested to me was I had to, through life, learn like really strong boundaries and also allowing people to do for me because I do for other people. But there has to be a balance of give and take. And a lot of the clients I work with as well are sensitive people. And I'm like, you've got to put that boundary up. It's not wrong to say that I need something, but yet like in the back of my mind, like I know I've done that. And we attract those people that are, let's say, a little, we don't want to put a label, but let's call them self-centered or not
Mhm,
aligned with the same
mhm.
kind of energy. So it's we're very attractive to people that would misuse this energy if we allowed it. So we
Mhm.
have to learn how to stand our place in life and accept who we are and just use it as a gift, but also set our boundaries. And that's when you're hitting a lot of those things, I'm like, yep, 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 check.
Yeah, it's really interesting because being givers, we are givers for free.
Yes, that's true.
But when we give for free, we have this innate expectation that we will receive what we give back, and then
Eh,
it destroys us when we don't, because
yes.
we're giving to people who are like, "Of course, if you're gonna give, why wouldn't I take?"
Oh
Right?
yeah, sure. Yes.
But
Yes.
we have this innate expectation that they're supposed to give back in return, and we keep getting disappointed. My friend is so and so, and I'm always there for them, always helping them out. And then when I needed help, they weren't there for me, and then
Absolutely.
there's this big letdown. So a lot of common dynamics there that go on
Yeah.
for sure.
A lot of it is no expectation. Like you really, if you have to give, you have to give with no expectation, knowing that that person won't give it back to you. You might get it from someone else, but maybe not.
Mhm.
So I've kind of learned to pull back. I've had a few people in my life that would take, and eventually I pulled back and realized that it wasn't even, and that they didn't respect who I was because they were using my good nature, and I allowed it because I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. But years later, life has kicked the heck out of you. And you're like, oh, wait a minute now. I think I have to learn this. So yeah, so I've been able to transmit it now to other people because I've lived it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. You're reminding me of one thing. I even just said this just the other day because I'm the go-to person for the entire state of Maine employee network of
Oh, wow.
health and wellness workshops. And
Awesome.
one thing came forward the other day in one of the workshops. I was there for one of the groups, and we were talking about givers and being a giver all the time and having a hard time receiving. And I said, okay, think of it this way: you have a hard time receiving. I said, but when you give, how do you feel? And of course, in the sense of empaths, they're like, we feel good. We enjoy doing it. It's part of who we are. I said, okay. So when someone tries to give to you and you reject it because you can't receive, you're actually preventing them from feeling how you feel.
That's right. That's absolutely true. And I said the same thing to a client recently. It's like you're taking their joy away from giving to
Mhm.
you and allow
Yeah.
them to give back as a thanks. So yeah, I agree with that. That's a very good way to look at it. And that got to me years ago. I'm like, yep, that's true. Love that. Yeah. So I was going to ask you about the past life thing because I also read Akashic records and I do past lives in my readings for people at times if it come in. And I've had spontaneous recall of several places I've been. I've been real busy, and I want to ask you about the way that you work with past life with
Mm.
people, and do you find
Sure.
there's blocks and gifts? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, I should set the precedent about just my bias about this whole thing with past lives.
Hmm.
And I know I can say this because I know the quality of work that you do, and I'm a big fan of what you do, and how you do everything that you do. But I'm very wary of people who are outside of you who are in this practice because I think
Hmm.
it can be done irresponsibly. I think there
Hmm.
can be projection. I think people are vulnerable and they adopt past lives that they don't have, but someone tells them all these things that go on, and I think it's a very dangerous playground to be in. So I do have a bias where I think this is a difficult topic. Um,
Yes.
what happens to me is I'll be talking to someone and it will come to me. I connect
Hmm.
to people's souls, and I automatically connect to people's souls who are alive, and because I can connect to their soul, I can have conversations with their soul, and I can have access to everything. So
Okay.
for me, it's just an interactive thing in the moment that happens with the person I'm spending time with virtually or in person.
Hmm.
And that's why I say you can hold more. I said before earlier, I hold more than I can share because I will
Hmm.
not offer anything about past lives if it's not pertinent to the conversation, even if it comes
Yes.
forward. And I
Yes.
also feel better if they have a sense of it and they're bringing it forward versus me
Yes.
projecting and they're like, oh, David said this is my past life. Oh, it must be. Okay, that's
Absolutely.
my past life. I'm uncomfortable
Yes.
with that.
And I understand that. And I also agree because when I'm doing a reading for someone, if it comes in, there's usually a reason that the angels will tell me. And it's usually because it holds a connection with another person they have issues with now, or
Mm-hmm.
there's a block or a gift that they're not aware of. And I had a situation where I had a person that I didn't know this before I did the reading, but it came out that she was a Roman sacrifice during the time when they were throwing the Christians in the circle there, and I had no clue. I didn't know this about her. So it came out in the reading. I'm like, this is weird. Why did this come out? I found out later she was terrified of lions and she wanted to go to the zoo with her grandkids. She wouldn't go. She might see a lion in a cage. It would get free and kill her. And after the reading, she's like, oh my God, that's where it came from. That's this like irrational fear of lions. I can't even see them on TV. And after that, it went away. She went to the zoo, had a great time with her grandkid. But I've had other ones too. And a lot of times, the only purpose I tell people for you to either know this or to come through is if it has something to do with something that you're going through now, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a shift, a connection. A woman that one of my people that I did a reading for, the guy that she was with had killed her in a past, but she was with him again, and now he was beating her. And it came out in the reading. I didn't know this woman. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it came out in the reading that this lifetime was to break ways with him and to learn to protect herself by not being with him. But she was
Mm-hmm.
so attracted that she wound up with the same guy again. And because it came out in one of the readings, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I did it again." And then she broke ways with him now, but But it just brought to light like why this happened. Why
Hmm.
did you choose this person? There was something that was unfinished that she had to do.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When the person wants to go about a past life that's been identified, I
Mm-hmm.
can actually take them into that past life in detail. I can
Mm,
help, and so what we do is we go through that so they can feel the emotions, they can relive the experience
yeah,
because
yes,
the experience is already being held by the energy of their soul. So it's
yeah,
not going away, but they
yeah.
have to transmute the energy and the emotion that's around it.
Understand
And
it.
so
Yeah.
by going back and feeling those emotions of what it was, they're able to transmute it into a, diff- a from an unpleasant experience into a more muted, neutral stance.
I've been through the past life regression about 4 or 5 times. My master
Mm,
teacher, my master Reiki teacher took me through, and I did it with another person. And I also had spontaneous recall, and a lot of it showed me like gifts that I brought back. And then one of them was a weird connection I had to clear. So through it, I've kind of like worked through it, but it is quite emotional. It felt like my
mhm,
guts were being ripped out and realigned, and I wanted to do that before I really started working with a lot of people because I wanted to make sure that I was as clear as I can be before I guided anyone. Because nothing's worse than someone that doesn't know what the heck they're doing, and they're trying to guide you and they're lost too. So I wanted
mhm.
to make sure I was clear, and I think the process helped. But it's emotional. Did you do like a hypnosis or just reading them like from being with them when
So
you did that
like I'm with
process?
you, it's like I'm with you right now. I can just that information just is there. Just like having a
Okay.
conversation, it all comes, it's all there.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
that's that's really interesting.
And then I'll ask questions to see how they feel about it. And
Mhm.
they have the option of not pursuing conversation on that or pursuing conversation on it too. So right, every topic is permission based about where the client wants to
Yeah,
go and does not want to go, because sometimes they're just not ready, right? They're not
yeah,
ready
absolutely.
to go there. And
Yeah.
I always want them to know it's okay to not go somewhere. It's okay not to address something. It's
Mhm.
okay to still be in a situation where it's unresolved. They it's about picking and choosing what at this moment they're comfortable that they
Mhm.
feel they can work on, where it feels
Mhm.
safe and it feels like they can do it.
What I found out when I was regressed, it didn't bring me where I wanted to be. It
Mm,
brought me where I needed to be, and I hated that. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't want to go there. That's a lousy lifetime." But it kind of helped to realign some things that I was stuck on. So for that
mhm.
it was interesting. So when someone wants that service from you, is there a name for it or you just call it a past life reading? Like what do you when someone wants that
Mhm.
service from you, what do you call it?
So I actually don't do past lives as a reading.
Okay,
Um, I work with people as an advisor, and then how it shows up and where it
got
plays
it.
a role, it gets appropriately addressed, right time, right place. They're in the right situation within themselves. All of that,
So soul
because
advising. Yes.
yeah, it fits into the bigger picture because you raised a very good point, which is a past life and addressing that has purpose because of other things that are going on. And
Yes.
we want to make sure we understand all the ingredients as to what's currently going on, that that's the appropriate path right now, or is that appropriate path later?
Got it. That's really good. Okay. Let's see now. Ah, are there some questions that you would have asked your angels or your guides that helped you in the past? Are there certain things that you had contacted your angels and guides about, or does it just flow in like cognizance, I guess you call it?
Yeah, thank you. It's just clear cognizance. So I don't need any help. So I'll give you a very specific example. So I was out jogging on a trail
Mm-hmm.
one day, and my wife, who at the time was not my wife, was calling me, and I had my phone on my armband, and she called me to FaceTime me, and I stopped jogging to take the FaceTime call, and she was talking to me, and I ended up falling down onto my knees and I was reliving getting stabbed in the stomach and dying, and I had visualization on all of it as it was occurring. So the one thing that's unique about me, even with all my clients, is, and I'm told this by other practitioners, but yeah, okay, that's great. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm very visual, so I see everything visually. So I see energies of past lives. I see energies of everything visual. I can look at your body and see the X-ray on the inside and know the issue medically because I
Wow.
just see everything visually. So my
Yeah.
past life experience for myself has always been visual, as
Mm.
well as physical, as well as emotional. So
Wow.
I relived it, and so it was really interesting that, and then it came forward because I need to clear it. So I had to
Yeah.
clear the issue that I had on that event.
Wow, that's cool. I sometimes I see that kind of stuff when I'm doing Reiki on someone because I'm in their
Mhm.
energy field and I'll get like a visual of that. One of the I guess a scary one I saw was a man in a black cloak that poisoned grain and he killed a whole bunch of people in the castle. And after I got done with him, he goes, "Did you see the black cloaked man?" And I'm looking at him like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
You know, and of course I did. He's saying, "Oh yeah," he says, I killed a lot of people in the past and I'm trying to clear that now. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was really like, it was pretty emotional to see it
Mhm.
because I saw what happened. And I'm like, what do I do with this? I just didn't say anything. I just kept working. But many times when you're in the energy field, I see things.
Mhm.
But normally it's in my dream state or just an instant knowing, like a feeling for me, not necessarily a visual.
Yeah, for me, all my experiences are in my awake hours. When I go to sleep, I'm in a deep sleep. I'm out. No
You.
dreams, nothing. But during my
Wow.
awake time, that's when I experience everything,
Yes.
everything,
Yes.
everywhere, all the time.
Were you visual as a child? Like, did you, you were saying with the game, like you said, you knew what was going to happen. Were you as
Mm.
visual with these gifts as a youngster, or do you find it more now as you're working with this transformational stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. It did happen when I was younger, especially knowing the future and things that would happen, right?
Yeah,
But what's really weird is when you're young and you're little, you think it's normal. So
absolutely.
you don't see yourself as different. So if, let's say, for example, I knew, this was happening on the playground, and I'm like, oh, I know what's gonna happen, boom, 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 for the next, next couple of hours. It would all play out that way. But I'm like, well, everyone else knows that too, but they all didn't.
Right.
As
Yes.
cause effect of everything, and it
Yeah.
was just, but I always know things too in detail. It's never general assumptions, it's never general concepts. I end
Okay.
up knowing the detail of how things play out. And so I think that was my normal, and I thought it was normal for everybody else. And
Yeah.
the one that actually bothered me the most, I was in high school and living in New Hampshire
Hmm.
and not a lot to do. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot of beer drinking to kill the time on the logging trails and light a fire and just hang out and all that sort of stuff. But there was a time where some of the kids were doing drugs, and
Hmm.
recreationally, of course. And I knew one of them was going to die.
Oh gosh. Hmm.
And I had to hold that, but my behavior was like getting frustrated and irritated with what was going on, the drugs, with the excessive drink, and all that sort of stuff. Because I'm like, I know where this is all going. And
Right.
2 weeks later, in the way that I envisioned, he died, and it was related to being out late at night, and yeah, and having a very difficult death. Yeah,
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because just because you see something doesn't mean that we're supposed to intervene
that's right.
unless we have the opportunity. I was on the highway, I guess a couple of years ago, and there was three motorcyclists going real fast, and I started praying. I said, "Oh my God, one of them is going to die, maybe more." And true to that, like just right down the road, one of them was hit with a SUV, and two men died, and the third one was badly injured. And I remember all of a sudden traffic stopped and then we went past and I knew they had the medevac there and this and that. But it's like I knew it was going to happen right beforehand. I'm like, please slow down, please slow down. I said a prayer, but it's like that's all I can do. I can only do that. I can't, go and stop them. There's nothing I can do. other than slow myself down and say a prayer for these guys. And it was awful
Yeah.
to know that, but it happens.
It does
Yeah.
happen. There was a case in point for me, and I know this one may be hard for people to understand or embrace, but, even when I was doing when I do my healing facilitation, it's, for me, still permission based.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, I work with people with level 2, 3, 4 cancer,
Mhm.
frequently, and I have some relationships where people refer those types of clients to me. But there can be a time where there was a time where actually someone had cancer, and I knew very well.
Mhm.
And I asked if I had permission to work on them, even remotely, because I
That's
can do that
right.
remotely.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was told no. I was told there, quote, there is great learning for them in what
It,
is proceeding for
yes.
them, and that I was not to interfere with that learning. And I was
Yes.
like, "Okay." And I'm okay with that, and that person did pass, but I was
Mhm.
told not to interfere because the journey of learning through that
Through
process was
that.
really important for that individual.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
there are other times where, it's like, "No, bring it all in, help work with this
Yeah.
person, help that person." So it is permission-based even in healing.
I absolutely agree with that, and that's what I tell my healers too. Always ask permission. You can't go in just because you
Mhm.
think you need something. You don't know what that soul needs. So, and healing can happen on a soul level, and that's between that person and God, and you not to interfere. So I totally get
Mhm.
you. All right, so we're coming up on the last minute or two of the show. This is the Lightwalker's Path. If you want to learn more about David, you can contact him at what's your website, David?
My website is spiritualjourneyme.com.
Okay. And mine is rosemaryd.com. If you'd like to learn more about my workshops, sessions, or books or courses, contact me, Rosemary, at info@rosemaryd.com. And please contact David for the wonderful things that he offers as well. So thank you so much. And we hope to see everyone Tuesday. David, you've been a pleasure. Thank you so much for offering your
Thank you.
generous gift of time. Thank you.
I'm your host, Rosemary DiTrolio, and you've been watching and listening to The Lightwalker's Path. Learn about my workshops, sessions, courses, and more at info@rosemaryd.com, my website, rosemaryd.com, Hands of Light by Rosemary. Have a blessed and beautiful day.